I just bought a ticket to your film. I'm going to see it in IMAX. It's like $23. And I can't wait to go back to the theaters. And that's kind of what I'm excited about, and kind of experiencing a film on the big screen again, and kind of with a socially distanced, low capacity crowd, whatever they're going to do with the seats. So I wanted to ask each of you, now that we're celebrating the return of movie theaters, what is your personal favorite theatrical experience you've ever had in your lifetime?
I can remember when I was old enough to go see the second Harry Potter movie, but not old enough to see the snake, and like peering through my mother's fingers and being like, I saw something I was not supposed to see, and feeling very excited about that.
What's your favorite theatrical experience you've ever had?
You know, what still sticks with me now, and especially being being an actor now and being a part of these like super like crazy superhero films, but I watched Avatar and in the cinema, and I remember just being like, oh my god, the world as we know it is like never going to be the same again. Like this is like the future. And I just remember it being like the most like surreal experience, and I like just loved every second of it. And then because that was before I was even part of the was even an actor, and I think like the year after that came out is when I started filming Game of Thrones, and so it was like, this is what I'm going into, like this is the world of like cinema, and like it was just it was pretty crazy.
That's awesome. Alicia, I'm curious for yours.
I mean, like, not the first one that like with the film, but I remember when my mom once took me to watch the trilogy of Back to the Future, like in one day. And I remember spending the entire afternoon with her and my sister watching it. And my mom is a huge movie fan. Like she loves all type of films. She was the one that always brought me into the comic world and the action films, even though she loves artsy film. And I remember that afternoon so vividly because I remember that feeling of spending the entire day in the theater. And I'm like, oh, can we do that? And we watched all Back to the Future. So I think that day for me, it was the film, but I think that experience of watching it back to back, it was really nice.
I remember going to the IMAX with my dad and seeing Chris Nolan's Dark Knight, and absolutely been blown away. I'd never seen anything like that, in my life.
Yeah, 70mm IMAX experience of Dark Knight, Interstellar, Dunkirk, and hopefully Tenet were just incredible. Henry, for you, do you have a personal experience that you loved?
I do. I have a very special drive-in memory with my dad watching Jurassic Park for the first time, and just seeing those dinosaurs walk through the park with the music, and I just popped my head out of the sunroof like, are they there? It was it was very like, realistic and dream-like.
Oh man, I don't know. I go to the movies a lot. Like sometimes I'll go to the movies like 4 times a week. That's actually like I moved to New York last year, and I told everyone I moved for the movie theaters because there's literally a movie theater on every block, and I have so many memories of like just walking around the city all night. And then just like I did that with a Portrait of a Lady on Fire. I was just like walking around and then just like walked into the movie theater, just got a ticket and sat down, and do that a lot. But I think I was in Vancouver, and I got a ticket to see the TV show 8 Hours Don't Make a Week or something. I forgot who it's by. Oh my god, it's such like a big director. And anyways, it was basically like an 18, 16-hour movie, like marathon. So I was in the theater, we had like 30-minute breaks, and I was in the theater from like 8 in the morning till like 9 p.m. at night straight. And it was the most insane movie experience ever. Like whoever made it to the end, we were all like hugging each other by the end of the movie marathon. It was pretty cool. That was fun.
That's
and
amazing.
We had actually a nice experience with our film. We went to watch the other Christopher Nolan's film when it was releasing.
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk.
Yeah.
We watched everyone together while we were
What?
filming.
On
And I
film.
was releasing with
On
him.
film.
Yeah.
Well, I
On
saw
film.
Dunkirk.
We watched on film.
I saw Dunkirk 6 times in 70mm IMAX. It was one of the coolest things ever. Maisie, I've never ever talked to you before, and I know you've answered every Game of Thrones question. I'm not going to ask you a specific Game of Thrones question. I just want to know the difference between shooting a show like that and shooting a movie like this, and maybe what was the coolest practical effect you ever saw on the Game of Thrones set, and what was the coolest effect you ever got to see on this set?
So although they probably are like a similar scale, like production when you watch it, I think like when you're actually on set filming, like being part of like a superhero film with like the amazing craft services and like bougie trailers and like just the sort of like everything behind the scenes was like very different to the way it was on Game of Thrones. But in terms of like the effects, I always loved when they had like pyrotechnics on Game of Thrones, where they would have things that like exploded, whether that was like shields and weapons or like pieces of like rubble around you. Because that's like the most immersive that something can ever be, because there's like actual real life like stakes. And so yeah, I think that's like always like just the most incredible thing. And then on this film, like we didn't have a ton of like real life dangerous stuff. Like it was all pretend, you know? So it meant that you would use your imagination a lot more. But yeah, that's kind of like the way it was. All of the money went towards like the effects on Game of Thrones, whereas on this film, like a lot of it also went to the food.
I know you guys have all talked at length about shooting this movie 3 years ago and obviously the delays, and now it's coming out finally. I'm just interested in knowing, when you look at the film 3 years later and you see yourself on screen, what do you remember about that person? Like that person who was shooting that movie at that time? Where were you? Remember where you were in your life?
I mean, something that's strange is that you are a baby for much longer than you think you are. Like I remember thinking I was 21 and I was there. Like that's who I was going to be for a really long time. And I'm now 24 and I'm like, I am still a baby. Like there's nothing that's changing about that. So yeah, I have a lot of compassion actually for all of us going through that. I think it's weird being able to see yourself grow up through film and seeing what you've learned acting wise as well from then and since then.
Well, then can I ask you, like, when you look at New Mutants from 3 years ago, is there something that you look back on and go, oh, I learned this now, that I'm doing this differently?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's potentially like not giving myself such a hard time. If you trust your director and they tell you it's okay, you don't have to go home and like hate yourself for ages and try and figure out how you could have done it better. You can just be like, he said it's fine, I can leave it alone now and like go to sleep and it's okay. So that's a good thing to learn.
And Charlie, for Henry, I'll go with you, Henry. Henry, for you, then I'll go to Charlie last. Henry, is there a like when you look back on it and see a film you shot 3 years ago, what do you see? What do you remember about who you were at that point? And is there something you learned about being an actor that you utilize now?
Yeah, so I was actually going to use Anya's example. I think the not being so hard on myself was definitely one. I mean, I was incredibly harsh on myself because also, a lot of my cast mates were incredibly known and been part of big movies and shows, and I just really wanted to live up for the part, but also to the hard work that these actors that I already admired were doing. But also, I look back and I could have gone like, breathe a little, you're doing fine, and later, 3 years later, coming to terms with the men that I'm becoming, and it's exhilarating, dude. It's like it's good to see.
And Charlie, for you, is there, just looking back on, I mean, I know you're probably in Stranger Things territory at that point as well in your life. I'm just wondering, like, what you remember about that point in your life and what do you see yourself as an actor 3 years ago?
Yeah, I remember I literally just finished season 2 and then piggyback straight onto this. And things were moving really fast at that point. Like, the first season just come out and exploded. We were this anticipation of the second season, and then all of a sudden the anticipation of doing a movie like this. And that's a lot going on at that time and a lot of change. And trying to just deal with that. I feel like now I've kind of not come to terms completely, but I'm a bit more relaxed about, like kind of everyone's saying, a bit more relaxed about, yourself and a bit more confident in yourself. But also, when I look back at the film, and we got to watch it this year, man, I was, there was like that little kid in me who there was definitely this moment towards the end of the film where, you're making it and you're kind of taking it quite seriously, about what these characters are feeling and where this inner turmoil comes from and it was quite a, kind of really introverted experience. But then when I watched it, I was just, that was the first time the 14-year-old kid came out in me who loved those X-Men films, who was like, oh my God, this is so cool. But I didn't, you didn't have that experience till later, until I'd actually got to see it. And you're not focusing so much on what you're doing.
Well, that's amazing. It's an honor to talk to all three of you, Anya, Henry, Charlie. I appreciate you guys today and hope you have a wonderful day and stay safe. And thank you for your time. I appreciate you guys.
Kevin, you should know that you made it real for us just now, because we knew that tickets were like happening, but you're the first person that we've spoken to that actually has a physical ticket.
I know you probably talked at length about the idea that this was shot 3 years ago.
Sure.
But I'm actually very interested in knowing, as you watch it in 2020, what do you see as a filmmaker for yourself? Like, and do you see things? I know you can go, okay, I would have done that differently, but it's in hindsight's 2020. But I'm just wondering, like what you see when you look back at a film you made 3 years ago.
Well, I mean, there's a bunch of different layers to that question. It's like, we're really happy with the movie that's coming out because it's my cut of the movie. It's like the movie that we wanted to make. But it's like there was certainly a window there of over a year where the Fox and the Disney merger were happening, where like nobody knew what was going to happen to the movie. It was frustrating and confusing and everything else. So it all came out well on the other end, and I'm so happy people are going to get to go see it. I just can't believe really all that we were able to do in a studio movie. It's just not typical that teenagers are the focus of superhero movies ever. Teenagers are going to see movies starring movie stars, not teenagers that reflect them in any way. So we got to make a teen movie with a gay romance that was also horror and had all these sort of aspects of things I wanted to play with that I hadn't been able to yet. We just wanted it to be unique and stand on its own, and organically, by adapting these very specific issues of the comic book, all those things sort of naturally became a part of it, I guess. So it's very different than what we originally thought we were going to make, because the original version was twice the budget. It had Warlock in it and all these other things. And it becomes, over the process of making a movie with a studio, the budget conscious movie that it's going to be, that ultimately is what you see in theaters. So it's always a winnowing down and a focusing on, the things that you can exploit and do.
That's cool. I can't wait to see it. I actually just bought my ticket for IMAX for $23. So I'm going.
I'm excited
I want to get back.
For IMAX. It was sort of the ending of it. Really, the battle at the end was designed to be seen on the biggest screen you could see it on. So I look at these news articles where they're like, 700 people were at a house party without masks, and I'm like, how about you guys just put on masks and go to the movies? It's like, that seems like a better thing to do.
Well, you say go to the movies, and I wanted to ask this because, getting back into the theatrical idea, like, I can't wait to see this in theaters. I'm going to see Tenet 70 millimeter. I'm going to probably see Tenet 20 times in 70 millimeter IMAX. I
remember I saw Interstellar 5 or 6 times when it came out. Like, saw it in every format I could see it in.
Dude, Interstellar in 70 millimeter IMAX, when McConaughey was watching the footage of his kids growing up, which, by the way, was the first take apparently, and it just blew my mind. So I guess that goes back to the question of the idea of theatrical experiences. And as a filmmaker who's made a film that's going to be opening in theaters on the 27th and 28th of this month, what is your favorite theatrical experience you've ever had? It could be like when you were growing up, just something that really blew your mind.
I know it's always it occurs to me immediately. So I was raised by very Christian parents in Virginia. My co-writer Nate, I've known since I was a little kid, and we wrote.
What part of Virginia?
Virginia Beach.
Oh, I'm from Newport News.
Oh, dude, I am Virginia Beach, Virginia. All my family.
I have a 757 number still.
So does all my family. That's amazing. So I still go back there and see them occasionally and all that, and they're super excited for the movie to come out. But so when I was a kid, I had to sneak a lot of things because they were religious. My dad would occasionally sneak me to R-rated movies. Like, he took me to see Terminator 2 and Darkman. I remember seeing Darkman in theaters when it came out.
Sam Raimi, man.
The one that he took me to see, though, that's really one of my favorite films of all time, and he's forever been my favorite filmmaker, was my dad took me to see JFK. And I never squeezed the sides of my armrest at a movie theater so tight my entire life. I felt like I was learning something about American history I'd never known about. I went and read history books because of seeing that movie. I went and watched every Oliver Stone movie, read every article about him, listened to every commentary, am friendly with him now, know his son very well. But really, that movie changed my life. It's not why I make movies. We made movies since we were 8 or 9 on home video, but the experience of seeing that movie was the most gripping experience I've ever had in a movie theater.